Men, your kid may be on the spectrum and you're not quite sure what to do. If you're a father like me and have questions, maybe you're a puzzled dad too. Welcome to the Puzzled Dads Podcast, where we're cracking the code of autism, one piece at a time. Welcome back to the Puzzled Dads Podcast. This is episode 3. We really appreciate you. I really appreciate the love and support you all have given. For those who have shared this with others, have sent the links. We really appreciate it. We want to reach as many dads with kids with autism as possible. So I just can't thank you enough for the support, for the love, for the prayers. It really means a lot. And just know I'm going to continue to do this so that we can continue to encourage one another. I also want to celebrate those veterans we have lost on this Memorial Day. A lot of soldiers and military personnel have fought for our freedoms, fought to give us things that we sometimes take for granted. And they've lost their lives doing it. So we want to make sure we celebrate them on this day, on Memorial Day. So show love to them. Let's open up with the word of prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day, God. We thank you for how you've blessed us. We thank you for how you've given us another day just to experience life, to see the amazing things that you do each and every day. We want to celebrate the lives of those veterans we've lost, be with their families as sometimes this day can be hard for them as they reflect on their lost loved ones. Be with us in this podcast, this episode, God, and just help us to celebrate you and celebrate one another, celebrate our kids. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Well, hey, welcome back to the Puzzle Dad Podcast. This is episode 3. I'm going to call this episode, All We Do Is Win. I know that was pretty corny but from a popular song, because we're going to talk about big wins and little wins today. Just a reminder, if you want to reach out to me, you can reach me at puzzledads@gmail.com. You can DM me, IM me on Facebook, Instagram. Also, check out the podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, as well as YouTube. Leave a comment, send me a note, anything. If you got any ideas, any topics that you want me to bring up that I have not yet, I would love to see that and get the feedback from you all. So, as you know, we're going to do a definition of the day. The definition of today is milestone. Milestones are big when it comes to our children's development. So let me give you the definition of a milestone: an action or event marking a significant change or stage in development, a significant point in development. Disclaimer. As always, here's my disclaimer. I am not an expert in autism, but I am an expert in my son. These are my experiences that maybe you can relate to. So I don't know it all. I know a little bit, but most of it's going to be around my son. I am still growing. I am still learning with you. So I just want to give a quick update to the last episode. So on last episode, we talked about meltdowns and just kind of delved into my experience with my son, how we've dealt with it, some things that may help us as dads as we deal with our kids in those moments. And for me, my son has had those moments, and as I mentioned last episode, where he can go from 0 to 100, or it can build and build, and then all of a sudden he's in full meltdown mode. Well, I was proud of my son. And I am proud of my son. So he just finished his basketball season with the YMCA. And typically in the past, if he has an issue that gets him frustrated, if he had an issue with, teammates or friends on his team, that could cause him to start crying and going into a mode where he's having a little bit of a meltdown. And as a dad, I want to make sure he's okay and go over there to him. And so my son was in the game and they were playing hard, and they were losing, but they were trying to come back. And one of his teammates, in frustration, kind of yelled something at him. And so then when he got subbed out, he was on the bench, and I could see the tears, start to come down, his eyes getting really wet. I could still see him getting upset. So, I go over there, during a timeout, because I want to, make sure he's calm, right? And as I'm walking over there, he's like, "Dad, I'm fine. Dad, I'm fine." Well, being the protective dad that I am, I still went over there and I said, "Bud, you're good. You okay?" "Dad, I'm fine. I'll be okay." And that was probably one of the first moments where I realized he may not need me. Like, he may be able to do this by himself. And sometimes as parents, we think we have to save them, we have to protect them, we have to make sure that they're good. Um, and when it comes with children with autism, one thing we talked about is self-regulating, right? How do they bring themselves back down emotionally? So then I go back over to the stands, and my wife did try to say, "Babe, just let him work through it." So then he's still over there. His coach says something to him, and he starts to get emotional again, right? And before I could even stand up, he looked over with, a few tears coming down, kind of huffing, and just gave the thumbs up. So for my son, when he gives us the thumbs up, that means he's good. That means he's okay. And he gave the thumbs up, like, "Don't even come over here, Dad. I'm fine. I'm okay. I'm going to work through it." I was so proud in that moment of my son. I was so proud because that was probably the first time that I saw him not need me, not need my wife, not need a teacher, nobody to console him, to kind of move past what he was feeling. Um, and just to see the growth was a huge win for me. That was a huge moment. And I was just so proud. I don't care what he did the rest of the game. I didn't care if they won or lost. And after the game, he was still a little emotional, but I just told him how proud I was of him and how happy I was. And I'm just love him so much, because for him to be able, that was the first time that I've seen him be able to self-regulate and not need us to come over and console him, right? Normally he wants us to do that. And he was just like, "I'm fine. Like, I'm a big boy. I'm going to work through this." And so I wanted to provide that update because we were talking about meltdowns last episode, and my son prevented his own meltdown. He didn't need me for that. And so that's one of the things we want to talk about on this episode is big wins versus little wins. And that was a big win for me, just to see him overcome that. So that's not the story I wanted to tell, right? But that's part of what I'm going to be talking about. So for most people, a major milestone, in their child's development is when they take their first steps. If they first say "mommy," "daddy," right? If they do something independent, right? We like to celebrate that. We like to take the pictures, the videos, and all of that. Well, for me, having a son with autism, like I've said in previous episodes, he had a speech delay. So at the time that we were expecting some of those more formative words at 3, 4, we didn't get those. So I didn't, so I'm trying to figure out, okay, well, when is that going to come? When am I going to get that moment where I'm going to hear my son say "daddy," hear my son say "mommy," right? Clearly like the other kids his age, right? But that's what comes with speech delays, whether kids on the spectrum or not. But that's what I had to go through. Is I saw him walk, right? We had the video of him walking over to me, him walking to my wife, right? And that was one major milestone. But every parent wants to hear that kid say "mommy," "daddy," right? We want to hear that. So for us, it didn't come clearly. It wasn't a clear "dada," mama, it was more muffled, right? Or it was kind of utterances like ma, ma, dad, dad. And he's 3 or 4, right? Where he's supposed to be able to say the full word. So for me, when he was able to first say daddy and say it clearly, that was a big win for me. I cherished that moment because he had been struggling with his speech for so long. So for him to clearly say daddy, that was a huge joy. That was one of my big milestones, especially in his development. For Jamar, he would often get frustrated when we couldn't understand them. He tried to muffle the words. He would try to get the sound out, and it would take us a while to understand. And and he would start to get frustrated, get upset, and we had to calmly say, "Bud, I'm trying to hear you. I want to know what you're saying, but I'm just, and I had to develop, patience with listening, right? I had to develop patience with trying to understand what is he trying to communicate to me, right? And sometimes as parents, that can get frustrating as well because that's a daily thing. I want to understand what he's saying. I want to understand what he needs, and I can't give it to him because I can't understand. And so, for Jamar, that was one of those things that could take him to when we talk about the meltdowns. That could take him there because he wants us to understand, and in his mind, he is telling us clearly what he is asking for, but what's coming out is not clear to us. And till this day, Jamar still has a speech delay, but he can talk a lot clearer than he used to when he was younger. But for us and for me, every day that he was able to add a syllable to a word, do 2-syllable words, do 2-word sentences, 3-word sentences, I didn't take those for granted. I didn't just see it as, okay, well, now on to the next milestone. No, I enjoyed each of those wins. I enjoyed whether they were small win, big win. Daddy was a big win. Saying I'm hungry, it's a win. That's a big win. Then saying I'm hungry, or I want apple, or I apple, or I apple. Just letting us know that that's what he wants. Those can be small wins in the development of our children. And for me, I learned to celebrate those moments. I learned to enjoy those moments because you never know when they're going to come, right? And instead of just worrying, getting frustrated, I learned to enjoy it, take advantage of it, celebrate it. So that's what I'm going to talk about today: is the big wins versus the small wins. We have to take all those big wins with the little wins. We can't just look at one and just say, okay, we're only going to celebrate when he says full sentences. We're only going to celebrate when he starts walking. We're only going to celebrate when he communicates clearly and effectively, right? I also want to celebrate when he's able to add syllables. I also want to celebrate when he's able to form a full word. Now, he may be able to form the word apple, but not banana, right? He's still working on banana, and it could be banana. It could be anything like that versus apple, right? I want to celebrate that. I want to, because that's a win. And each day as a parent, as a dad, that I can enjoy those little wins, that's another moment of hope. That's another moment of joy, another positive thing to focus on in the development of our children. We had to learn and work through all that. We had to learn through the muffled tones. And for dads especially, this can be frustrating. I can't understand my child. I can't understand what they're saying. I don't know, what's going on. But you gotta think about how frustrating it is for our children, where in their mind they're telling us exactly what they want. they're giving us all the details, but for us, it's coming out muffled or mumbled, right? And then they're seeing the confusion on our face. They're seeing sometimes frustration because we don't get it. We have to think about how frustrated they are because we're not getting it. And in their mind, they're clearly telling us what they need. And so we have to exhibit that patience. We have to show them, I'm listening. I want to get what you're saying. And for Jamar, he would start to get frustrated. And I had to say, no, but it's okay. It's okay. You can tell me multiple times. I'm listening. I don't want to rush you through it. Tell me exactly what you need. Let's figure it out. And sometimes that can give them comfort to know, okay, my parent, my dad is not getting frustrated with me because they don't get it. And that can help calm them down. And so um, they just need to know that it's okay to figure out different ways to communicate. It's not all kids who are on the spectrum have trouble with verbal communication, but as Jamar does, a lot of kids do. They struggle with how they can communicate. Um, and so we're essentially as parents, we're essentially as dads, we're learning a new language that they don't teach in schools. This is not like taking Spanish, French, Latin, sign language. This is none of that. This is not a language that they're going to teach in school. It's just the language of parenting. That's all it is. And you learn that on the fly. There's not a book that can tell me how to understand my child when they have a speech delay. There's no book that can tell me that. But that's a part of this. And so if we look at our communication with our children as I'm learning a new way to communicate, I'm learning essentially a new language that's really just me and my child. This is our language. Now, everybody else may not understand, but I understand him. Then it kind of gives you that reflection of, okay, this doesn't have to be something that's frustrating. It's just once we start to learn and figure out what are those cues, what are those things that help them tell us what they want, it can make the communication a lot easier. So how do we move forward? How do we try to learn our children? How do we try to understand and help them to learn that we are listening and we want them to understand? How do we help teach them to communicate with us more effectively? The first thing, as I mentioned before, have patience. As a dad, as men, sometimes we don't have a lot of patience. Sometimes we want to rush the process. With our kids, there's no rush in the process. There's no rush in the process. We just have to sit back and listen, right? For those who are married, how many times have your wives told you, I just need you to listen to me. I don't need you to solve the problem. I just need you to listen. And so with our kids, we have to listen, right? We have to find some of those verbal cues, some of those other cues that give us an idea of what they want to eat, what they want to play with, what they want to drink. When you find that form of communication, when you find something that works for you and your child, use it over and over and over, and then build on that. So for me, when we couldn't understand, we started saying, well, Jamar, can you point to it? Can you point to what you want? And so he started, once he understood, okay, let me point to it. So he's pointing to a banana. He's pointing to an apple. He's pointing to the refrigerator. He's pointing to water, right? But he's not able to clearly say it. Okay, now we're starting to get somewhere. So rather than, I just don't know what you want. Okay, Jamar, well, since I don't understand your words, can you point to it? And so he would start to do that. And so now we have a form of communication going back and forth. And so now as he's trying to say the word, as he's trying to say banana or whatever. Now I can say, oh, banana. That's a banana. And so when he's pointing to it, now I can help him to articulate what the word actually is and just repeat that word and have them try to repeat it. And that helps with them understanding and learning the word by being able to point to it, and then us as parents repeating that word. Does it work for every child? I'm not saying that. This is what worked for me and my son, is for him to be able to point to what he wants until he was able to verbally tell us what that item is, or what that object was. And that has helped us immensely, just to be able to go from where he was when he was 3 and 4 and we first started him in speech therapy to where he is now, and he's able to communicate. And even now, there are times where he wants to tell us something, and maybe he says the word incorrectly, or he doesn't get a full sentence out. Side note, what I love about my son is he wants to make sure whatever he's trying to tell you, that you listen to the full sentence. There's not a, let me cut you off, I know what you're going to say. No, he'll say, let me tell you something. Let me tell you something. And if you cut him off, no, let me finish my sentence. Let me finish my sentence. And I have no choice but to laugh when that happens, because we all want people to let us finish what we're trying to say. We don't want people to rush us through our thought. We want to get our full thought out, right? Our kids are the same way, right? They want to be able to clearly communicate to us what it is they need. They want us to hear them all the way out, as opposed to assuming and rushing and trying to force something that's not there. And then we go get them a banana, but they really wanted an apple, right? Because we're trying to rush through the process. So we have to be able to listen, when they're able to, when they're trying to communicate fully to what they want. Use different things, whether it's pointing, whether it's sounding something out, whether it's using topical words. So they can't tell you the food, but they're hungry, so they may say food, right? Do you want food? Yes. Okay, so then now let's break it down by level. What type of food? We start pointing to different foods or saying different foods. Using certain sounds. What are some sounds that they may make that may help you to understand what they're looking for? Pictures are always great, right? If you have certain pictures of some of the common things that they eat, some of the common things that they play with, some of the common things that they do, like a playground or something like that, that's another form of communicating with our children when they can't clearly articulate what it is that they need. And we can use, and like I said before, try everything, and then whatever works, use that over and over and build on it. Build upon whatever it is that is working between you and your child. Celebrate when there are new points of development, new milestones that are met. I don't care how big, I don't care how small. If your child couldn't say banana before, and now they finally say banana, celebrate it. Make it a big deal, because then as they're learning new words, they know Daddy's going to make it a big deal and celebrate it, and I want to keep learning more. That may happen, right? But also for you as a dad, celebrate all those different milestones that happen in your child's life and your child's communication. Because again, that's just that's the hope that you continue to build on. That's the joy that you continue to build on. That's the blessing that you continue to build on. Because when I celebrate all those different things that my son does, there was a time where he couldn't do it. There was a time where he couldn't clearly articulate that word. There's a time where he couldn't write his own name. There was a time that he couldn't give me a full sentence. He can give me 2-word sentences. There's a time that he can't give me a clear thought, right? I want to celebrate all those different moments, because there was a time where it couldn't happen, right? So celebrate each and every one of those milestones that your child goes through especially with their speech and their communication. Celebrate those things. Make it a big deal, whether it's a big win or a small win. Make it a big deal. Lastly, continue to encourage them if they get frustrated, because they want us to know what they need. They want us to be aware. They want us to understand just as badly as we want it. So encourage them through it, right? You see them get frustrated. Again, as a dad, that's time for us to bring ourselves down, to remove our ego, to remove how we think things should be done. Because whether your child has autism or not, every child is different. So we have to remove how I think it should happen and just encourage them. And the more encouragement they get, the more that they'll feel like, okay, I can keep trying. I can keep pushing, right? Daddy's not going to be upset with me. Daddy's not going to, get frustrated with me, because we're constantly encouraging them through the challenges that they have. So again, dads, puzzle dads, celebrate the big wins, celebrate the small wins, and enjoy these moments, right? Don't take for granted each and every moment, because each and every moment that happens within our child's life is a blessing. That's it for this episode. Man, this was good. This was good. I continue to be amazed by what God is doing through this, and I hope as we talk about communication a little bit more, as we talk about enjoying the big and small wins, that this encouraged somebody. So remember, you can reach out, puzzledads@gmail.com, Facebook, Instagram. You can check out the link on YouTube. Share it. Hit the like button. Hit the subscribe button on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio. You can check us out everywhere. Share it with somebody, whatever their preferred method of listening to podcasts and links. Send that to them. All right. And again, remember, Puzzle Dads, we're cracking the code of autism one piece at a time. Have a blessed day, and I'll talk to you next time. All right. Bye.
I hope you enjoyed listening to the Puzzle Dads podcast with me as your host, Jamar Whitehurst. For more information on autism, check out autismspeaks.org, along with other resources listed on our social media pages. Don't forget to leave a review and follow us on Facebook, YouTube, and subscribe to this podcast on your favorite streaming platforms such as Spotify and Apple Music. Remember, Puzzle Dads, to keep cracking that code, because God has a plan for each of us and our children. Have a blessed day.